welcome. Today is our Tuesday Bliss Techniques meeting, and it's nice to have you here. So I think that we're going to have a very, I believe, a special meeting today. And so you want to optimally have a nice space for our guided practice. And of course, you can always make do with whatever you have, but to the best of your ability, you want to have a nice space that's as suitable and supportive of deep rest and healing as possible. But again, nothing can actually interfere with that as long as you don't allow the interference. So it's really just for you, whatever will be supportive for you. We'll be doing some exploration lying down on the back, so you will want to have space for that. It can be whatever's going to be comfortable for you. Ideally, you don't want to fall asleep, so whatever that would be. Okay, so as usual, it's a guided healing practice with a healing intention. So you can get the most from this by aligning yourself with that. So your intention is very, very powerful. And we're going to explore that in a little bit more detail today so that can, with a slightly different angle on it, so that it can be clearer for you so that you can get more benefits and retain the benefits. That's important. So I think that's all the preliminaries. Okay, so let's begin by finding a comfortable position, posture, whatever is comfortable for you. So you could be sitting, you could be lying down, you could be standing. We're just going to take a few minutes here. So you want it to be something that you can really feel good in. You don't want to be struggling just to be just to be here. And so it's really an opportunity to discover a lot of those habits that you might have that interfere with you feeling secure, calm, stable, peaceful, uh, confident. So a lot of the things that we struggle with day to day in our lives, we have usually been led to believe that they are circumstantial, that it's caused by environment or other people or situations. For example, if there happens to be some loud noises taking place that other people are producing, we may believe that those loud noises are problematic. Those loud noises are causing me to feel tense. Or we might think that how other people treat us is a problem, or our financial situation is a problem, or many other things, or even the sensations that we experience, we may think are a problem. And when we allow ourselves to believe that, then we are the ones that suffer. So even though for most of us, it's a very deep seated primal assumption that we cannot overcome these things that we perceive as external problems, be they as the things that we think of as other caused by other people, or even the things that we think of as being caused by our bodies or by nature. And so here we want to become aware that that is not true. We want to become aware that we have been given, or we have within us, access to intelligence and power that is far greater than any challenge that we might experience. And that in fact, the real difficulties that we are facing actually are not at a distance, but they are entirely intimate, that they are much more intimate than we had suspected. So that this is very good news, because it means that simply through awareness, we can discover true healing that is independent of conditions, circumstances, people, places, things, time, and all the rest of it. So it's very, very, very powerful and somewhat subtle. And so, well, I mean, they go together. Powerful and subtle go together. So when something is very subtle, it's also very powerful. When it's very powerful, it's also very subtle. And so that means that we have to be willing to allow ourselves to become subtle ourselves, to allow our consciousness to become subtle. So notice, as I often point out, whatever the low-hanging fruit may be, whatever it's just on the edge. It's not quite conscious, but it can easily become conscious. The tensions, the worries, the gripping, the anxieties that are just barely below the surface of conscious awareness, that you can become conscious of easily, and that you can then voluntarily release. Not get rid of, just release. Just release your gripping. So with the sensations, you can release the gripping. The sensation that you are gripping may or may not go away right away. But don't worry about whether it goes away or not. So just know, and you can silently affirm to yourself the truth, which is that this sensation has no power over me. I am free. I am free to allow the sensation to come and go, and I don't have to do anything about it. So you just keep letting go of whatever you can let go of. Sensations, thoughts, images, and all the rest of it. And again, here, it's just whatever is easy. So maybe there's a lot more that's not easy. Don't worry about that. We have to start where we are. If we allow ourselves to fall into overwhelm, well, we'll stay there until we stop. So we want to not go there in the first place. Just don't go to overwhelm. Just know that whatever is there, there's an intelligence in you that can handle it. You didn't create yourself. You didn't create the sun or the moon, but there's an intelligence that has created it, and there's an intelligence that is maintaining it. This intelligence is in you. It's beating your heart. It's moving the blood. It's doing all of the things, the countless things that are being done every instant. So it can handle all of it. You can just rest and relax and just be here and just attend to what you can attend to. And trust and know that you are supported. So don't allow yourself to get overwhelmed. Just know that all is being taken care of. And the more that you can be here and just attend to what's here in this gentle way, the more healing comes. So as you are here now, let's just take a moment to clarify your healing intention. So you can notice what it is that you, the specifics of the healing that you are longing for. Now, I'm not suggesting you need to have a, completely detailed down to the, every little last thing. But you want to some degree, at least, if possible, you want to have some conscious clarity about how you want to direct the healing, because it's a co-creative process. So you're not here just to be unconscious, to zone out. That's not what it's about, obviously, because if that's what it was about, then everybody would be very happy. So we're here to be conscious. We're here to be consciously expressed. Well, in order to consciously express, we have to be conscious of who we are. And who we are both undifferentiated. We could say, call this pure consciousness if you desire. But of course, it doesn't exist independent. There's no such thing there that actually exists independent of the differentiated self. So the differentiated and the undifferentiated are one, which just for convenience or for teaching or speaking of it that we make the distinction, but in reality, it's one. But it's like two sides of a coin. So there's undifferentiated and there's differentiated. So undifferentiated, all is fine, all is well. Nothing's ever happened. There's only this pure Sat Chit Ananda. That's all there is. But then here we are. I am this person. I am this one. These are my experiences. These are my desires. So we are here clearly in form, differentiated, to creatively and authentically express in this differentiated way. So you have your unique expression. You want to get clear on that. And again, don't get overwhelmed. Don't fall into overwhelm or just think, oh, it's too big, I can't figure that out. No, just very simply, we can start with what it is we don't want. That's usually a bit easier, right? Because we know a lot of the things that we don't want, because we've had these experiences and we say, oh, I don't like that. And those experiences that we just keep having, that we keep thinking, I don't want that. Well, let's focus on those, but in a very specific way. So bring to mind what it is that you don't want. So the things that seem to be problems in your life. And what is the number one thing? If possible, we want to just focus on one. If one is not possible seemingly for you, you say, oh, I've got too many and they're all too urgent and important. Okay, so the top two, top three, if you must, but no more. You have to limit it, because otherwise what happens is the energy gets scattered and nothing ever really happens. So we need to have some concentration, some focus, so that we can direct the energy and we can see that something happens. It's very, very important. We have to see that something happens. We have to actually begin to gain confidence that something is happening. Because otherwise, it doesn't really get enough momentum. So the things we don't want already have quite a lot of momentum. They just keep on happening. It's a habit. So it could be the problematic relationships, or it could be the uh, difficult health experiences, or it could be the particular troublesome thoughts, or it could be uh, some sort of problem that you have, recurring problem with a sense of lack. Could be any of these kinds of things. Now, you know what it is you don't want, hopefully. That's already clear to you. Now, based on that, we can get clear on what you do want. Because what you do want is really sort of just the inverse, in a sense, of what you don't want. So if you say, well, what I don't want is this health problem. So what you do want is health, wellness. So, of course, the specifics of how you want that health and wellness to manifest will be colored by the specifics of how it manifests in its opposite. So, if you have chronic knee pain and that's a trouble to you and it interferes with your good experience, then you want to direct your healing intention to my knee is strong. My knee is healthy. My knee supports me in all of the activities that I enjoy doing. I feel good. My knee is uh, whatever it is that you desire. So you want to get clear on that, and ideally, you want to have you want to have enough clarity that you can actually think some healing phrases, as I've just given some examples of. Why? Because it helps to focus. It helps to bring some uh, clarity into the process so that it can begin to manifest. Okay. So hopefully you have some clarity on that. So now if you're, you can, we're going to do a little bit of a breathing exercise. And so you want to choose a comfortable position for you for the breathing exercise. It's going to be a very gentle, relaxed breathing exercise, but it's a very focused exercise. So you want to make sure that you're going to be able to be in this posture that you're choosing in a good way for, let's say, 10 minutes, roughly. For most people, you're probably going to find that it's most comfortable to lie down on the back, but some people will prefer to sit. So once you're in the position, then I want you to take a moment to really choose to be here. So I talked about this recently. If we don't choose to be here, if we don't commit to it, if we don't root ourselves, then we don't have a strong position from which to observe our experience. So we want to, ideally, to observe our experience, we want to have as much stillness as possible, because that reduces the amount of noise or the amount of movement or activity to the minimal, so that we can really be clear and observe just what is happening. So if you're fidgeting, then that produces a lot of noise that makes it harder for you to observe. And it makes a big difference, really, really big difference. it's not, it's like a exponential difference. So commit to being here. So you want to find how to be here in the best way possible, receiving the support, letting go of whatever can be let go of, and then really just affirm to yourself, I am relaxing here. So now bring your attention to your breathing, and ideally, please, if possible, breathe exclusively through the nose for this. So begin by just allowing the breath to be calm. So that sounds so simple, but as soon as you bring your attention to the breath and have the intention to allow the breath to be calm, you become aware of all the ways in which it's not quite calm. So here, remember, don't fall into overwhelm. There's an enormous amount to be aware of, but the intelligence that is necessary is in you. You don't have to generate it. You don't have to produce it. You don't have to work really hard at it. You just have to allow it. So just allow, and don't let yourself be distracted by the overwhelm or habits of that kind of thing. And just trust that the intelligence is in you. So just continue to be aware of the breath with the intention to allow it to be calm. And I'll give you some tips to explore in this way that will help you to discover something very, very powerful. So I'm going to say a few words about this to provide some context. But as I'm saying those words, continue just to allow the breath to be calm. So the most important thing is that you just allow yourself to relax and allow the breath to be calm. Secondarily, it will be helpful to you if you can hear and understand the words that are said. But if it's too difficult for you to do both, to relax and allow the breath to be calm and to hear and understand the words, then give your priority to the relaxed and calm breath. So we have an intention, healing intention, and we've gone through a little exercise to derive that healing intention from what it is that we don't want. So we know that, well, it's just true that if there's an intention, a desire, then there's a perception that that's not already so. Right? We don't desire what it is that we already have or are. We only desire that which we perceive we do not already have or are already not, if that's the right way to say it. So the setup is already there, that we perceive that there's something that is lacking in some way and we are desirous of it. Now, why would that be? It's because there's some experience that is occurring that we perceive is other than what we desire. So that's sort of obvious because we just went through the exercise. We started with what we don't want to derive what we do want. So we perceive that there's something that's happening that interferes with or obstructs what we do want, and we call that thing that's obstructing it what we don't want. Now, how did that come to be? Well, you might not quite recall, but there's a certain process that is occurring in nature all the time. And we can recognize that, and we could describe it in many ways. But we can see that that process involves, fundamentally, there's a beginning, and there's a middle, and then there's an end. Well, presently, the thing that we don't want already had a beginning. We know that because it's already here. And we haven't yet gotten to the end because it's still here. So we're in the middle. Now, the middle is, what is the middle? The middle is a continuation of the beginning. It's the beginning has been extended. So this is called sustenance in classical terms, in a three-part way of understanding these things. When there's deities assigned, we would speak of in the feminine, we would call the beginning the Saraswati, the middle we would call the Lakshmi, which is the sustenance, the sustaining, and then the end is the Kali. So we have this sustenance going on. The sustenance of what? The sustenance of what we don't want. Now, I'm mentioning this because when we start to understand that that's what's going on, when that clicks, then you'll suddenly realize that it has no power over you. It's just something that is continuing. Now, what we want is to end that which we don't want. But as they say, nature abhors a vacuum. So we want to replace that. It's not actually true that, I don't know if that's true that nature abhors a vacuum, but certainly for our purposes here, we want to replace it with what we do want. This will make things much easier. Now let's look at, and this is very, very important. This has come up recently. There was a comment in the messenger group that somebody shared that they have these positive healing experiences, but then they don't seem to be continuous. They're interrupted by a reemergence of the old pattern of what you don't want. So what I'm describing right now, and what we're going to discover through this breath exploration, is how we can bring about an end to what we don't want, and how we can sustain what we do want. And so let's look at it. So how is it that what you don't want is sustained? Well, it's sustained through repetition. And what is it that is repeated? So you will see that what's repeated, now we think what's the external things that are repeated, but let's look a little more closely, and we can see that really what it consists of is these similar kinds of thoughts and feelings and images are repeated. In fact, the only way that you know to describe what you don't want, to say that what's happening is what you don't want, is because you're referring to the past in order to be able to describe that this is something that you recognize and that it's something that you don't want. So it's a repetition of the thoughts, feelings, and images from the past. So there's some energy that's here, and we don't actually, this energy hasn't really quite taken form yet, but it becomes more solid. It takes form through the application of the thoughts, feelings, and images. And it's just simply the repetition of the same kinds of thoughts, feelings, and images, which makes something seem more and more real and solid. So you can see that this is so because you can probably remember some time in the past when you were young and you hadn't yet had experienced a certain type of problem that later in your life surfaced, and then you started to have that kind of problem over and over and over. But there was a time prior to that in which you didn't know anything about that kind of problem. So when the problem first arrives, it's not as strong. But after many years repeating, we say, oh, that's just how it is. So we want to be able to put an end to what we don't want. And we want to be able to sustain what we do want. So hopefully this is clear. I know it's a simple idea, but it's very powerful. So now it turns out that there's one, I don't know about one, there's a something that you can become aware of that in a sense answers both of these questions at the same time, which is how can we end what we don't want and sustain what we do want? So in order to understand this, you want to observe and see what it is when you have an experience of what I call a miracle, when something happens, when you discover some kind of deep rest or healing, or something opens, or there's a shift, or somehow there's a ray of light or some kind of newness or freshness that enters into your experience, even if it's very small. Okay, so this happens, and then for an instant, this is like the beginning of what you want. Okay, or it is the beginning of what you want. But then what happens is it's not sustained. Well, why is it not sustained? So if you observe your experience, you'll see the reason it's not sustained. We could elaborate on it in a number of ways, but in an essential way, we could distill it down and say that it kind of comes down to fear and anger. So you'll see that, okay, let's take this example of if you have some kind of health thing that you're unhappy about. And for a moment, you have this shift. There's a ray of light, and you have a clear sense that I am well. All is well. I am free. Now is new. All is possible. I am healthy. And this is true for you, really deeply true for one instant. Okay, so you've all had this experience, I know. And then what happens? A moment later or a few minutes later seems to vanish. And what's shown up in its place? The old way, the familiar, the negative patterns, the negative thinking, the despair, the negative projections into the future, the repetitive unwanted thoughts or images and this kind of thing. So what is the basis fundamentally of that which appears that you say, I don't want, this is not what I want? And I'm suggesting that if you look carefully, you'll see that the basis is fear and or anger. So it depends a little bit on some people are more prone to one more than the other, and some also somewhat circumstantial, but kind of at the core they're the same, but we understand them a little bit differently depending on these various factors. But it's we could call it fear or anger. So this, again, it might seem very, very simple, but I'm giving you the basic setup here so that this can make a lot of sense, and then you'll see how powerful this is, what we're about to discover. So think for a moment about how it would be if you had if you had the ability to uh, defeat anger and fear. So if you really had the confidence knowing that anger and fear have no power over you, what would that be like? So then whatever, if the old habits surfaced, but you knew that they had no power over you, think about how that would really change things. You wouldn't be distracted. You wouldn't be set off course. You wouldn't become confused or despairing. So there's one more thing I want to say about this, which is it's to sustain something depends on our ability to maintain our focus on it. So we've all developed unconsciously a tremendous ability to focus on what we don't want. Just look and see the truth of that. It comes so easily. You don't have to try at all. If the negative thoughts, the negative images, the negative memories, the negative patterns, they come so easily because we've unconsciously developed very powerful ability to focus on those things. Well, that might seem unfortunate, and in some ways it is, but we want to take the good from this, which is that we have cultivated the ability to focus very powerfully on something and to see the results, to see how it manifests. The more unbroken the focus can be, the more powerfully and quickly it will manifest. So we want to do the same. I hope this is making sense and adding up all the pieces that I'm saying to you, that we can do the same, not for what we don't want, but for what we do want. The difficulty up to now has been for most of us that we just simply didn't know how to maintain our focus on what we do want when faced with our enemies. Our enemies are who? Fear and anger. So it's like in the Ramayana, when Vishwamitra is performing his yagya, and at the all the inopportune moments, along comes Subahu and Maricha to interfere. And so we need Rama. We just need to have the confidence that we can defeat our enemies. Well, we don't have to go to, the good news is we don't have to be warriors and fight them. We have something much more powerful. We can actually turn our enemies into our friends and allies. So I'm going to demonstrate this to you. So you're observing your breath, letting the breath be calm and relaxed. Now, I want you to just think about something briefly, think about the thing that you don't want, the thing that's causing you all this stress and worry and discomfort. And see if you can feel that for just a moment. Just allow one, just briefly, so that you can observe what's going on. And observe how it changes your breathing. Or maybe it doesn't change your breathing because maybe your breathing just is stuck in that pattern all the time. But just notice how your breathing pattern supports or generates what it is that you don't want. And notice, does the breath feel relaxed, calm, free? And it can't if you're genuinely feeling bad. Okay, so fear and anger, and we could say any other variation on that theme if you need for yourself to open it up in that way, but we're just talking about anything of that ilk. They have particular breathing patterns or influences. So we want to recognize them, because if we don't recognize them, then they're like shadows and they're harming us. But when we do recognize them, and in that case, if we don't recognize them, they're our enemies. But when we do recognize them, then they become our allies, because they alert us to the danger that's here that we can easily avert if only we know how. So we all have this power we just forgot. So I'm going to guide you to discover the uh, well, I guess it's the true Ujjayi, because Ujjayi means victory. It's the breath of victory. So this is the breath of victory, but it may or may not match your idea of Ujjayi. So forget I said that, because that's a little confusing. But it's the true breath of victory. It's the breath of fearlessness. It's the breath of supreme love. So bring your attention to the breath again, and notice the breath. There's an inhalation and there's an exhalation. And of course, there's a transition between inhalation and a transition between inhalation and exhalation and inhalation. Okay, but we're going to primarily focus on the inhalation and the exhalation. And actually, of the two, we're primarily going to focus on the exhalation. So each time you inhale, I want you to inhale comfortably and relax the abdomen. So if it's comfortable for you to do so, you might find it helpful to place your hands on the abdomen. You don't need to, but if you find that comfortable, you may find it supportive to do so, because it will help to bring your attention to the abdomen. So we want to allow the abdomen to relax. Now, when you inhale through the nose, you might notice that it highlights the inhalation, can help highlight the sensations in the abdomen, so that you can become more aware of any habits of tension in the abdomen, and you can gently, voluntarily release whatever you can release. So don't worry about what you can't release, but just whatever you can release. You want to release as you're inhaling. And then as you're exhaling, continue to release in the abdomen. So the abdomen is becoming more and more relaxed with every inhalation and with every exhalation. Now, as you're doing this, you may find that there's a certain point in the during the exhalation at which you find it challenging not to tense up the abdomen. If you discover that, then don't exhale further. Simply wait, pause until you feel an impulse to inhale, which may be immediately, and that's fine if it is, or it may be not immediately, and that's fine if that's the case. But whenever the impulse to inhale arises, simply inhale through the nose gently. As you inhale, Keep your awareness on the abdomen and notice any sensations of tension in the abdomen that you can then release. As you exhale, you're going to continue to release and relax the abdomen. And if you encounter a moment during the exhalation in which you feel a strong compulsion to tense up and you cannot relax through that, then pause. Don't exhale further, just pause and wait until the impulse to inhale arises. So you're just repeating this over and over. Now, it's possible that this may bring about quite a different breathing pattern than you're accustomed to, in which case there may be a few breaths or a few minutes even in which it's somewhat disorienting and you're not sure whether you're able to breathe enough, or maybe you perceive that you're breathing too rapidly, or any number of things may occur. But just continue to relax and follow the instructions. Of course, if it becomes stressful at any point, you can just completely rest and forget about it for a moment until you feel comfortable again, and then you can return to it. So it should not be stressful. Should be relaxed. But of course, as I've been pointing out, because this simple exercise may quite substantially shift your habitual breathing pattern, in that transition, it's possible that it will be somewhat confusing for your nervous system. So just approach it gently, but trust that you're okay. This intelligence which is in you can handle it all. So you're going to be fine. So don't let yourself get overwhelmed. Now, what you may discover through this, and certainly what I hope you discover, is that your breathing can become so much more relaxed. Many of us have habitual patterns of tension that cause us to squeeze so that we're not able, we're able, but we have forgotten how to just simply have a natural, relaxed exhalation. And we're constantly stuck in a forced exhalation. And in fact, it may also force our inhalations to be more forceful than is necessary too, because we're working against ourselves in order to inhale. Now, keeping your primary attention with the abdomen is going to be helpful here, because staying with Hannah's theory of the somatic center, which I think there's some merit to, the strongest tension is going to come about primarily in the abdominal area, but it's going to radiate out. And for many of us, the chest also becomes quite tight habitually. So this is a classic red light pattern. The whole front side of the body becomes chronically tense. And of course, we've developed amnesia, so we don't know it. We don't recognize it as such. We interpret it as just feeling bad, but we don't know that it's really just that there's chronic tension. So as you continue with this simple breathing exercise, also notice that you can relax the chest and the throat and the face and the groin and the pelvic floor. So we can just direct our attention to an area to bring the healing energy there. So we'll go one part at a time and I'll guide it. So I'm going to continue with the same breathing exercise as long as it's comfortable for you. Remember, it should be relaxed, not stressful, but it is a bit of a process. So you have to play with it. Don't shy away from novelty or discomfort entirely. Just trust in the process. But we're going to continue with that same basic breathing exercise, and I'm just going to direct your attention to some areas as you are doing this. So let your attention continue to include the abdomen generally so that you can continue with the exercise as it's instructed. But in addition to that, I'm going to suggest some areas that you can direct your attention to. So let's start by also including the pelvic floor in our awareness. So as you are inhaling and exhaling in this calm, relaxed pattern, also include the pelvic floor in your awareness, and notice that as you inhale, you can relax the pelvic floor so that the pelvic floor actually will expand very slightly downward on the inhalation. And as you exhale, continue to relax the pelvic floor. So for many of us, we hold a lot of tension in the pelvic floor. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about particularly, you can just bring your attention to the perineum, which is the area between the genitals and the anus. So this area for many people develops tension that increases over time, and then we have all kinds of symptoms as a result of that. And we can help ourselves and remedy all of that by this simple exercise. So as you're inhaling, just a gentle, relaxed inhalation, nothing, not exceeding your ability to do it in a good way. You're just allowing for the pelvic floor at the perineum to relax so that you can start to maybe perceive that that area is gently softening and expanding downward with the inhalation, just a tiny little bit. And with the exhalation, you continue to relax the perineum. So you're just here sitting or lying down. There's no need to tense up at the perineum. So you can just continue to relax. So a couple more breaths with the attention at the perineum. Then next, you can bring your attention to the front side of the lower abdomen. So the area between the genitals and the belly button. And just same thing here. You want to, as you're inhaling in the same calm, relaxed way through the nose, you're relaxing the lower abdomen. And if you can comfortably place your hands there, that can be helpful. If not, then don't. But it's just a few breaths here. So as you inhale, relax the lower abdomen. And if you can place your hands there, you might actually be able to feel that area softening, because a lot of us hold a lot of tension there, and you might actually literally be able to feel with your fingers the tissue releasing so that that area becomes softer, more supple. And of course, as you're exhaling, you continue to relax. So what happens is many of us have a unconscious habit of tensing up on the exhalation. But here we're wanting to bring awareness to remedy that so that this can continue to soften, because we don't need to tense up in the lower abdomen as we're just relaxing and breathing. And the same instruction here as before, which is that if you notice that you are not sure how to continue to exhale without tensing in that area, then pause the exhalation and just wait until the impulse to inhale arises, and then inhale again. So your breathing volume may reduce. I should have mentioned that earlier. And if that happens, that's fine. But we're not trying to necessarily reduce the volume. That may just happen. So we're just letting our ability to continue to relax be our guide rather than anything else. So a lot of other ways that we can try to breathe and guide our breathing, and here we're just using as our guide our ability to continue to relax. Now bring your awareness to the upper abdomen, so the area from the navel to the lower ribs. And if it's comfortable for you, you can place your hands there. It's some fairly large area, so you can spread your fingers out so that you can cover that area, and feel that as you're inhaling, you're able to relax that area. And as you're exhaling, you continue to relax that area. So if you notice that you are unable to continue to relax that area while you're exhaling, then pause the exhalation, wait until you feel an impulse to inhale, and then inhale. And the inhalations are just gentle and relaxed. So we're not trying to gulp down air or anything. It's just comfortable. And each inhalation should allow you to relax even more. So next, let's bring our attention to the chest. And if it's comfortable for you, you can place your hands on the chest. So the same thing here, but importantly, at the same time, I want you to continue to be aware of the abdomen. So it's important that you don't start tensing up the abdomen in order to relax the chest. So if you find that you're not yet able to relax the abdomen and the chest at the same time, then just stay with the abdomen. But if you can relax both the abdomen and the chest, then you're going to, as you inhale, you're going to relax the abdomen and the chest. And as you exhale, you're going to relax both the abdomen and the chest. And if you find that you don't know how to continue to exhale without tensing up the abdomen or the chest, then just pause the exhalation and wait until you feel the impulse to inhale. And then do so. And take a few more breaths in this way. And then we'll bring our attention to the throat, and we'll include in the throat the collarbones and the jaw and tongue. So if possible, if not, then just focus on the throat. and the chest and the abdomen. But if you're able to also include in your awareness the collarbones and the jaw and the tongue, then that would be great. So same basic exercise. You're going to, as you're inhaling, you're going to continue to relax the abdomen and the chest, and also now, if possible, the throat and the collarbones and the jaw and the tongue, if that's possible. And as you're exhaling, you're going to continue to relax the abdomen, the chest, the throat, collarbones, jaw, and tongue. And you allow for the relaxed exhalation only as long as it can remain completely relaxed and pleasant. And then you pause until you feel the impulse to inhale, and then you inhale. So hopefully now you have discovered a truly victorious breath. One that has turned fear and anger from your enemies into your allies and friends, because now you have awareness of how to overcome the negative habits which interfere with you sustaining what you do want. So remain with this for a few moments with this relaxed breath, and bring to mind your healing intention, and see how you can continue to bring to mind your healing intention and relaxing the breath just for a few minutes. So don't worry about, if it's like absolutely continuous, that's not essential, but just that you want to just continue to refresh in your mind your healing intention. See if you can cultivate the positive supporting thoughts, feelings, and images. So how is it true for you already? And of course, the negative habits, the doubts and fears and so forth, may begin to creep up, but observe your breathing and continue to allow the breathing to be deeply relaxed, as we've just explored, so that the exhalation is relaxed and not forced. And the inhalation is also relaxed and not excessive. And with each breath, you're able to receive and absorb more and more of the healing energy because you're relaxed. So you can actually feel that healing energy is absorbing, and that it's supporting the sustenance of your healing intention, so that you'll notice, I hope, that this simple breath awareness, uh, it, it is what turns your enemies into your friends. It is what overcomes fear and anger. And fear and anger, if you allow them to unconsciously rule your life, which most people do, then it will be very difficult. But with this simple technique applied consistently in combination with a healing intention, as I've just described, and as you have hopefully just experienced, is very, very powerful. And I hope that you have experienced the truth of that just now. And I hope that you will put it into good use in your life so that you can be victorious, accomplishing your healing intention, and to really truly live the life that you're here to live on purpose, for a good purpose, which is the truth of who you are. So thank you. This is the end of the guided practice for today. You don't need to rush. At least I hope not. So you can take your time to continue to absorb the healing energy and to uh, experience the bliss of that, the healing power of that, and let it heal you at all levels, physically, mentally, energetically, so that everything is harmonious, functioning in a harmonious way, so that you can begin to feel the good sensations, think the good thoughts, see the good images, know yourself in a good way, know life in a good way, and that can continue to be a virtuous cycle in your life that will radiate out to touch all beings everywhere. If you have any questions, please do feel free to let me know by whatever means you're most comfortable contacting me. And that is the conclusion for today. So thank you for joining me. And I'm going to end the recording now.